Wheel of Doom. Hey guys, welcome to the show. Today we're reviewing the 16-inch M1 Max MacBook Pro. I've been setting it out for the past 2 weeks. I've got two of them, 64GB one and a 32GB one. I just want to share my experience over the past 2 weeks. So first up, is it faster? Boom, 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 shakalaka. It is a beast, and it is like one of those beasts that is respectful. Like Fan Noise City is officially gone. The only times I ever hear the fans is if I am playing a game at like 20K, well, 4K resolution, and it just overloads the system, and then it gets Fan Noise City. But the Fan Noise City is like, it's gone. It doesn't exist anymore. The machine is mostly very, very stable, runs very, very cool, very, very silent. The only time the heat gets a bit high is if you're compressing. 3, 2, 1. Let's unzip. Now this is a 44GB file, and the fans have gone up to 2,900. So unzipping a file that started to make the M1 Max work real hard. I want to jump into activity monitor, just see how much of the cores. Look at that efficiency, performance cores. It's all being destroyed by unzipping. Unzipping just utilizes the chip to the max. Now, as you can see, all that toing and throwing, M1 Max did win after all, doing something CPU super intensive or mining. 10.3 mega hashes. And on the i9 5500M, zooming in right there, what does that say? It says 10.6. Now, one of my other favorite things to do in life is just to annoy Chrome. So I'm gonna launch 57 tabs at the same time and see if you can handle it. Which one can handle the beast? They both can, because they're both pros. You see the M1 Max, maybe it's ahead, side by side. You got the Intel one catching up. Which one's gonna win? We're looking at the circles on the screen right now. It looks like the M1 Max has loaded all the tabs at the same time. The Intel one is still chugging away. It's chugging at scale. So you're getting a lot better performance per tab. And if you have loads of tabs being open at the same time, loaded it all up straight away. Whereas the Intel one is still chug, 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 chug. All right, so we're right now in the game and we're getting 20 frames a second. And on the M1 Max, I'm not hearing any fans, and it's double the FPS. So I'm just launching the infiltrated demo. That's pretty much the most aggressive demo you're gonna get in Epic's suite of samples. Now for the record, even though it's been about a year since Apple launched M1, the editor is still being compiled for Intel. Boom, on the screen with Immolation. Immolation, this is an Intel application. It's already launched. Pretty much, this guy's still on 45%. It says 5 frames a second when we're moving the camera, and here it's like 1 frame a second. So it's 5 times faster in operation and faster in compiling. Unreal Build Tool, which is an exe file, so it's actually running a Windows application using Mono to emulate Windows, and then it's like lots of layers, and then Rosetta is translating from ARM into Mono into Windows. So that's why it runs considerably slower. It beat the Intel chip compiling Intel code. All right, now it's time to do some machine learning. Memory, we can see that we're using about 17 gig and 11.5 on the M1. And it is almost done. So we got the result on the screen right there. And the Intel chip is slightly behind. So this is good because last time I tested the Intel versus the M1, the vanilla one, the basic one that came out last year, the Intel was actually faster. But now it's definitely lagging behind. Film grain effects on the GPU. This guy, it just about, let's see if it does it, it just about handles 6 film grains, just about. Guess how many film grains you can get on this M1 Max before it starts to complain. Still handling 25. Handling 25. So from 6 to 25, that's how much they've improved the graphics in rendering. Oh, instant, bit slower. So yeah, the speeds have improved. So if you're an anti-JPEGer and you love your HEICs, probably it's more efficient, but it's just a lot slower. It's no longer a lot slower if you're using the right stuff. Hit play, 150 tracks. It's working the show, doing the magic. Can the i9 do 150? Oof. Nope. So it seems to be working well at 99 tracks, which makes the M1 Max 50% better at handling tracks in Logic Pro. However, this isn't a side-by-side, is it? Oh, it overloaded. Okay, so it's less than 99. Anyway, this isn't a side-by-side because it's Fan Noise City on the Intel. So to get it equivalent, we need to go all the way down to around 50 tracks. And that should make the performance drop enough for the fans to start ramping down. So Jetstream #1. And to make this interesting, I'll do a battery life test at the same time. As you can see, the M1's flying as usual. Battery life, 92% versus 100%. But overall, it is a nice, beautiful system. Nice, beautiful system. Now I'm upgrading from the i9 MacBook Pro, and I do love that one. That one is a very, very good beast. And that one's more of a beast because you can actually hear the machine operating. You gotta be like cranking the levers, turning off turbo boost when you want to run it cool, but you can run cool. But this guy, of course, is faster. The good thing about the older one is it runs and it supports all of my workflows. However, this new one, as good as the system is, if you're a professional, I'm talking about if you're making money from your workflow and you don't need to upgrade, don't upgrade right now. The amount of issues and headaches I have gone through over the past 2 weeks. Yep. So computer just crashed again. It's a bit weird. To get some productivity has been a very pain into Wi-Fi. Its Wi-Fi is off, but it tries to connect to Wi-Fi anyway, and then it's gonna crash. All right, I think it's gonna crash now. Boom. So all of my plugins that I used to use, they are obsolete now. And be very careful when looking at the applications and the plugins that you think will work on these M1s, because a lot of them do say M1 compatible, M1 support, but then there'll be like a little asterisk and at the bottom it will say, but not in Final Cut. And I'm like, yo, I use Final Cut, that's what I want to use. So you're gonna have to wait a few more months, hopefully it'll get done and you'll be able to get your plugins back. But a lot of the good plugins that I used to use, they are no longer working on the platforms I use. And even if you look at the big guys, Adobe, some applications like After Effects, they're not M1. So yeah, look into that in particular. And if you are a professional and you don't need to upgrade, don't upgrade because you're losing quite a bit. Of course, you're gaining quite a bit. It's a very, very stable system. Like I said, it's very, very performant. Like the tests, very, very impressive, but you're losing quite a bit. And I have had issues, and maybe I'll jump into the issues I've had. Not saying this is a bad machine. Like everyone knows this is a great machine. Get it if you're new to Mac OS and you don't know any better. But I'm saying if you are upgrading from a productive system, then reconsider. The reason why I'm forced to make this upgrade is because I made the grave mistake of upgrading my Final Cut Pro to the latest edition of Final Cut Pro, and all of my, it just became so sluggish on my older system. I think 10.4.8 was running smooth as butter. Then I upgraded to 10.5.2 and then it just ruined everything for me. It became sluggish. So I've just upgraded the system to just relieve that, and it does run best there. Not to say that it's not flawless. I do see the rainbow spinning wheel often. I see it often. Yep, it's been loading this project for the past minute. It's just a simple project. Yet I've got the wheel of doom. Yep, good work. And the amount of crashes I've had trying to get my plugins to work has been a nightmare. I can't use any third-party plugins without experiencing a crash. It's happening, it's very, very bad. So maybe I'll jump into the issues. So issues, external display. I have had flickering on this external display. If I try plugging it in via Thunderbolt, it flickers every now and then. So I've had to resort to the HDMI. And it's plugged into HDMI. I haven't tried plugging more than one monitor in. So if you are thinking about Pro versus Max or 32 gigabytes versus 64 gigabytes, maybe consider going for the maximum model. If you do want lots of displays, having an external display, 4K resolution is around 1.5 gigabytes per external display. So maybe that's why you want to get a 64, but I'm jumping around a bit, but I've done some intensive tests between 32 gigabytes and 64 gigabytes and I haven't noticed any performance differences. Android Studio, I've got Unreal Engine, I've got Final Cut Pro, I've got 3D Mark 11. They ran just as fast as each other. The system was using more memory, but the 64 GB system running just as good as 32 GB system. And from what I noticed, it's just the memory compression is just so sublime. Like the memory that it's using or not using as it switches applications, it just uncompresses it and compresses it very, very quickly. It's not back in the day when I was testing out the Mac Mini. You can see that I've got some compressed RAM and I'm using the swap. So pretty much most of my memory is being used. And this is what it leads to. I've hit play, but I've got the spinny progress bar while it has to uncompress the project and put it back into memory.
Have you ever wanted to improve your jawline depth?
Now that that project's loaded in memory, it runs really fast. So I hit play and it appears on the screen. But if you do switch applications and have the Mac have to compress Final Cut Pro and then have to uncompress it back into memory, then playback. If you had low levels of RAM, then you'd actually see the stuttering of it trying to get it from swap and back. On both systems, the 32 GB and 64 GB, barely using any swap, and it was all about the memory compression running flawlessly. Memory, we can see that we're using about 17 gig and 11.5 on the M1. Something also interesting about the memory that I've noticed is that the i9 version, or the i7 and the Intel versions in general, they use a technology called hyper-threading. What that means is each core is virtualized as 2 cores, which means they can like lane in more traffic and get things going more quicker. So what I've noticed is that the M1 Max or the Apple Silicon CPUs, because they don't have hyper-threading, they generally use less gigabytes in RAM. So for example, when I'm running Chrome, I get about 10 gigabytes usage on this system, whereas on my older system, I get 14. Because what happens is, to enable hyper-threading, because you're treating each CPU as 2 CPU cores, if you were to have an application that would use 1 gigabyte per core, rather than on this system, they use 10 gigabytes. On the i9 system, they'd use 16 because each of the 8 cores is treated as 2. So that's 1 gigabyte per core. That means that's 16 gigabytes usage, which is more than this one. Now, the reason why you'd use more RAM per core is because if you want to parallelize this task, if you have a task that uses multiple threads at the same time, for example, if you're compiling shaders or if you're doing something intensive, compressing zip files, anything like that, you need to copy the same amount of memory to each of the core. So that's why this system uses less memory that I've noticed compared to my older system, because it uses less cores because each core isn't virtualized into 2. So the system knows it has less cores, so it allocates less memory to each of the cores. Now jump back into issues. Have had audio crackling. And this is external speaker audio crackling. Whenever I reset my computer, it crackles for a bit. And what's even worse is, in Logic Pro, when I was playing back some tracks, I had the system just crackling away. So obviously these bugs are gonna get fixed. It's gonna improve, things are gonna get better. I'm just saying right now, state of play, I had the speakers crackle and the audio crackle. Plugins, yeah, it's all gone. I've had developer applications, weird slowdowns have occurred, like in Unity. There is a problem though, so there's a bit of response issues with this demo. Don't know what's going on, but I move the trackpad and then a couple of seconds later it registers. Weird slowdowns have happened and even crashes. I had the system just 4 times as fast to run. It's a very sexy platform. The only thing left to do is just wait for the applications to catch up, and hopefully they will, because it looks like Apple have smashed it out of the park. Why has the screen gone back? I've had the system become unresponsive, where I had to just like hold the power button to stop it and restart it. And other issues is just saying goodbye to legacy software. I'm talking about Windows x86. You're saying goodbye to that. Yeah, I've got a Windows computer on the side, so I can live with that. I can do my gaming on another computer, that's all right. But you're also saying goodbye to Mac OS, the older versions of Mac OS. So before, I used to be able to jump into High Sierra or even Catalina and all these other Mac OS versions to check out really old software. You probably don't need to do it in your world, but I'm just saying, if you're one of those people that want the future and the past and to play around together, you're saying goodbye to virtual machine of x86 in general. So that's the old versions of Mac OS, the old versions of Windows, and whatever kind of old, maybe you're using an old version of Linux, wherever it is, you're saying goodbye to all that stuff. So if you can live with that, what you gain is an insane amount of performance. Is a very, very beautiful machine. It's like one of the only machines I've ever seen play 8K YouTube videos, not just one, but two. I had two of them playing side by side, and it boom, shakalaked it. So it was very, very strong there. Webcam, it's actually pretty cool. I got a cover for my webcam. I just got a bit of black electrical tape, put it right in the middle. Looks beautiful, and the notch, it works well. They've just moved the menu bar up. I've covered up the webcam and I haven't noticed it since. I of course just use a wallpaper with a bit of black at the top, but you can use an app, it's for free, called Top Notch, and that can mask the system bar, make it black. So that was pretty good. Something also interesting about the webcams I was talking about, obviously I blocked out mine, but if you go into Control Center, they do have like a focus blur mode, so you can actually blur out your background on any applications. So if you're using OBS, you can toggle it on or off, so you don't need an application to blur out the background for you. It has it built into the operating system. Next up, talking about docks for this MacBook Pro. I'm using my old dock. It's just working exactly the same as the i9 one. Happy that they never changed the form factor too much, so that dock is working well. I'm also using this hub. I've got a million USB-A's right there plugged into one Thunderbolt connection. I'm actually gonna switch that out to a USB-C to USB-B, so I can make sure it looks nice and sleek. Right now I'm using too much adapters. I've got all of these cables plugged in, and it's generally been working just the same. And as you know, the sound on these systems, they're amazing. They're very, very good. The only problem is if you're using it as a desktop, you will need to find external speakers, which are as good as the MacBook Pro. I've struggled. I'm using these cheap as chips ones at the moment. They're not that good because whenever I listen to them, I always miss out all of the crackling and the weird background sounds that you guys might be able to hear on your audio devices, but the speakers sound great. So they're not good for production where I can hear all the bad stuff, but they're great to listen to and they sound comparable, if not better than the MacBook Pro speakers. And finally, should you upgrade now or should you wait? Well, there's rumors, of course there's gonna be rumors. You know, there's got the Mac Pro, potentially that could be going Apple Silicon, or maybe they'll do another Intel one just to finish up the show. But you got the iMac Pro coming out. It's gonna have maybe two M1 Macs in there. So if you don't need a laptop necessarily, maybe hold out for one of them because, you know, you want the most powerful machine ever, isn't it? And in a desktop system, you might be able to get not just one M1 Max, you might be able to get 2, 4, then you'll be able to do some mining and live your life, make your money back. So that's my review of the MacBook Pro. As you can see, working just as good as I had it before. I've managed to install all of my developer tools, got Apache running, all this kind of stuff. I'm happy with how it's flowing for me. But like I said, if you don't need to upgrade right now for production, I'd avoid it because I've had crashes, I've had plugins, I've said goodbye to them. Now, if you are an innovator and you want to be the person that fixes the plugins and makes the plugins work and makes some money out of it, great opportunity, you can jump on board. But if you just want to use your system to make your work, you don't need to be the pioneer in this. You can even get, there's loads of those i9, i7 Macs getting on eBay and all that stuff right now. So you can score yourself a deal, get one with Apple Care, and maybe that's a more reliable system over the next year until all of the software catches up to the beautiful hardware that Apple's built. So let me know what you guys think of the MacBook Pros, which ones you're getting. Are you getting the Pro, the Max, the 32, 16, 64, 14 inch, 16 inch? But overall, I am happy with mine. Hope you guys found this video useful and enjoyed the show. There you go. Gonna get the spinning wheel of death for a while now. It's been loading this project for the past minute. It's just a simple project. Yet I've got the wheel of doom. Yep, good work. Good work, ecosystem. Sort yourself out, Final Cut. Sort yourself out. Please. This is what people don't show you, is the slowdowns that you still get. It's not perfect. There's still issues. And this is the 64GB memory edition. We're not even using the CPU or memory. Activity monitor, I'll launch up right there. still spinning away, spinning wheel of death. You got Final Cut Pro just not responding. Don't know what it's doing. The CPU is definitely doing some stuff. GPU is doing nothing. CPU can do more if it wants to. It just doesn't want to. You got more potential to do. Mate, you got the space to just do some work. It just doesn't want to do any work. It wants me to go on break. Sorry that I had to make you wait this whole minute, but I might have to force close this application. It's just not loading. Yeah, spinning wheel is not gone. It's not like amazing. It's still just amazing. Bye now. Yep. So computer just crashed again. It's a bit weird. So my computer is just constantly crashing at the moment. I think it tries to access Wi-Fi and then it crashes. Maybe it's because I got an Ethernet plugged in. I'll try to see what's going on. It's a bit dodgy at the moment. Click cancel. To make sure that it doesn't try connecting to Wi-Fi. Its Wi-Fi is off, but it tries to connect to Wi-Fi anyway. And then it's going to crash. Alright, I think it's gonna crash now. Boom. That's a bit weird. Okay, I'll try unplugging all my peripherals and see if I can get it to avoid crashing.